He's a self-appointed assassin, a killer who believes he's on a mission beyond the law.
He felt he was almost an avenging angel, that he was doing God's work.
But to those who would cross his path, he was an angel of death.
He was, in fact, the judge, the jury, and the person that carried out the sentence.
Overnight, a city is thrown into blind panic that would soon spread across the country and beyond.
The fugitive aspect of the case definitely became a worldwide manhunt.
Clearly, the sniper was playing a game with the police.
But armed with the very latest in forensic technology, this is one game the cops have no intention of losing.
People tell you policemen don't take things personally. I think we damn well do.
In an upscale neighborhood in Vancouver, Canada, a man quietly kicks off his day with coffee and the morning newspaper. But little does he know, a very different morning has been planned for him. In broad daylight, and for no apparent reason, a man is gunned down in the safety of his own home by an unknown sniper. After his wife calls 911, Garson Romales is quickly rushed to hospital. While at his home, forensic experts scour the crime scene for evidence. One of the first to arrive is Sergeant Ann Drennan, who is shocked by the very nature of the crime.
It's a very upscale, affluent neighborhood. It's normally very peaceful, very quiet there, and that type of call, a shooting or something with a lot of external violence involved, was very rare. When the first shot was fired, it went through the sliding glass doors into the kitchen area, but did not hit Dr. Romales.
And the next bullet tears through his thigh and blows a hole the size of a cantaloupe. Blood everywhere, gushing out of the thigh.
For a bullet to do that, the sniper must be using a very powerful weapon. And when investigators turn their attention to the laneway behind the house, their worst suspicions are confirmed. They find a spent shell casing, commonly used with M14 type rifles.
The ammunition itself was very unusual, and this particular ammo was manufactured in either Russia or Asia.
In the same garbage can, police find unused rifle shells. The problem is the spent shells and the live ones don't match.
They were quite different from the shells that were located following the actual shooting.
It appears their shooter has planted dummy evidence.
So clearly the sniper was playing a game with the police. He was purposely deceiving them. He's actually thinking ahead to what are the police going to be looking for.
Police are initially encouraged when a witness comes forward, telling them she has seen someone very suspicious.
The man had been in her gas station and had very, very muddy hands, that he was rather dirty, he was kind of wet, and he looked as though he might have been outside and digging around in dirt or leaves.
And from that, there were composite sketches made that police circulated. The man who was being sought had, average height, 200 pounds, white guy, not much to go on.
But the sniper may have left behind another clue.
They found what I'll call fresh garbage. It was remnants of food and drink boxes.
Were these left behind by the shooter? If so, police wonder what kind of person would casually eat before committing such a cold-blooded act.
It indicated that somebody had quite likely been in that area for a period of time.
Waiting for the right moment to take a shot.
The only good news in the case concerns the victim himself.
Fortunately, he was a doctor. He was able to take the sash off his robe and make himself a tourniquet on his leg to try and stem the flow of blood.
Garson Romales is headed for a full recovery. But despite their best efforts, police are no closer to finding their cold-blooded sniper.
We didn't know what the motive was here. We knew that for whatever reason, someone had wanted to kill somebody in that house, and that it was likely the doctor.
Certainly, the fear was there that there'd be another attack.
And nearly a year to the day, that fear is realized. This time, the sniper strikes 3,300 kilometers away in Ancaster, Ontario. It's a carbon copy attack. An unknown shooter fires from the back of the house. The victim is yet again a doctor who survives the shooting. Again, the ammunition found suggests a military weapon.
In a shed in behind the house, they find bits of wrappings, garbage. The sniper had been in there for some time, waiting for the right moment to take a shot.
The sniper waits again, and 2 years later.
On November 11th, 1997, it's Remembrance Day in Canada, or Veterans Day in the US, and out in Winnipeg, Manitoba, a bullet fires through the glass and strikes Dr. Feynman in the right shoulder.
Dr. Feynman survives the shooting, but the MO perfectly matches the previous 2 attacks.
There were a lot of similarities. It appeared to us that we possibly had a serial shooter out there.
And since police have no idea who their shooter is, they instead turn their attention to his victims.
Clearly, this is a sniper who is not just showing up and taking a pot shot and running. It's calculating and cold. He's basically hunting doctors.
But not just any doctors. This shooter is hunting doctors who provide abortions. On the trail of a mysterious serial sniper who has shot 3 victims in the quiet of their own homes, police come to a horrifying conclusion. He is specifically targeting doctors who perform abortions. Joyce Arthur worked in Vancouver for the Abortion Rights Coalition.
It's hard to think of any other issue other than abortion that is so divisive and so radicalized.
In late 1990s North America, government protection for both providers of abortions and the women who need their services caused anti-abortion activists to become increasingly violent, even in laid-back Vancouver.
We were very much aware at the Vancouver Police Department of the increase in the level of violence and aggression that was involved in the whole anti-abortion movement.
One guy was showing up with a baseball bat, being very threatening. Another guy showed up with a knife in his pocket. There were death threats. It was scary.
As time went on, the doctors definitely became the primary targets.
But no one had been this smooth and this well-planned that they would actually go in, shoot a doctor, and run with the intent of firing another day.
After forming a national task force to look into the shootings, authorities must decide whether to go public with one of the crucial links: the date. 3 shootings: Dr. Romales, 1994, Vancouver; Dr. Short, 1995, Ancaster; and Dr. Feynman, 1997, Winnipeg, all on nearly the same day, Remembrance Day.
This is someone who was attacking in the fall of each year for 2 reasons. For tactics, because the days are short and dark, and for symbolism. It's Remembrance Day, Veterans Day.
The doctors, I think, kind of started to take a much lower profile, started to take security measures. Some of them were wearing bulletproof vests.
These people were very afraid.
And with each successful attack, the shooter is gaining more confidence. He's emboldened by what he's doing.
And with Remembrance Day just weeks away, it's not only Canadian doctors who fear for their lives. Dr. Barnett Slepian, is now on the sniper's list of victims, but with a terrible difference. He will be dead by the time police reach the crime scene. One of the first to arrive is Joe LaCourte, detective lieutenant with the Amherst Police Department.
We do a quick walkthrough so that I can see as much as I can see at a quick glance. The ambulance is already gone. Dr. Slepian had already been removed.
Dr. Slepian was definitely someone who stood up for his principles and what he believed in, and he felt it was a woman's right to choose, and many times he had been the victim of protests at his home.
Inside the house, LaCourte makes sure his men don't disturb any potential evidence.
If that one officer or that one civilian goes in, makes one mistake and kicks the bullet, the bullet ends up over there that started out over there, it could throw our entire investigation off.
Police are soon joined by FBI Special Agent Joel Mercer, who is involved because the crime violates the FACE Act.
FACE Act stands for Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. It became federal law in 1994, basically to protect providers of women's reproductive health services.
Joining the crime scene is Captain Michael Melton, Chief of Forensics with the Amherst Police Department.
We learned of Dr. Slepian's death shortly after arrival on the crime scene. That information was transmitted back to us, so we knew that we had a homicide.
For FBI Special Agent Mercer, the reality of the case quickly sinks in.
There was a family portrait on the wall that kind of caught my attention right away. It's a beautiful family, 4 young boys, kind of living the American dream, one might say. You know, a father who worked hard and a mom and a very close-knit family. And the night that the shot was fired, the entire family was home. 2 of the 4 boys were within probably 10 feet of Dr. Slepian when he was shot. You know, and that's a memory they can never escape, no matter how hard they try.
Here you're at your house. You've been out during the evening. You come home, and all of a sudden a bullet comes screaming through the back window of your house out of the dark and hits you. How can you begin to imagine that?
Your home is your castle, and if you can't feel safe at home, where can you feel safe?
The deadly game between the sniper and his hunters has become an out-and-out war.
And killing a doctor, he's gone and done it. It's brought the full force of the law.
We instantly set up a joint command post with the local police, the New York State Police, and the FBI.
How you doing, sir? I'm Detective Williams of the Amherst Police Department.
They started doing a neighborhood investigation, asking neighbors if they heard anything or saw anything.
As the evening progressed, dogs were called out. The Sheriff's Department helicopter was in the air, searching for anyone who might have been back in the woods or any suspicious cars parked off at dead ends.
I had the helicopter in the air for 2 reasons. 1, to see if the suspect was laying down in the field behind the house. 2, it had the forward-looking infrared on it, and if a cartridge is fired and ejected from a gun, it may retain enough heat to be picked up by that FLIR unit.
While his officers search from the land and sky, Melton's task is to determine exactly where the sniper fired from.
To find out where the bullet came from, I had requested the use of a ballistic laser.
Melton aligns the laser with the bullet holes in the sliding glass door leading to the backyard.
We projected that laser beam through the 3 holes that were present. We had the screen hole, which is on the interior, we had the interior glass surface, and then we had the exterior glass surface.
In a line formed by the bullet holes, the laser beam tracks the trajectory of the bullet back to the woods and finds the very spot where a few hours ago the killer stood and fired. But once again, the sniper has vanished without a trace. Or has he? Police hope the Slepian crime scene will finally turn the tables on their killer. After wounding his 3 previous victims, all of them abortion doctors, a dangerous serial sniper commits a brutal act of murder. state-of-the-art forensics identify where the shooter stood only hours ago. But what can this crime scene tell the police?
Our problem was, at night, we really had to stay out of that field. If you went in there at night, you're going to step on things that you can't see. So we chose to lock that part down.
The next morning, Melton searches the area around the tree.
We boxed off about a 12-foot area all the way around that tree, and we proceeded to do a ground cover recovery, meaning that all the leaves that were there, we scooped up and we sifted using sifters on location. The other thing that was really important was what we didn't find. And that was a crucial piece. And the fact that we couldn't find that cartridge case really started to tell us more about the suspect.
Unable to find any ballistic evidence, police turn their focus to the actual tree where the laser hit.
Pretty much looking for a needle in a haystack. Now, in this day and age, not only looking for hard forensics, looking for DNA materials, whether it be a hair or a fiber. You're not just looking for big items, looking for something that might have perspiration on it.
Bark has crevices in it. It's heavily textured. And if I lay a piece of clothing against that bark, it could scrape off a fiber. If I rub my head against it, it could snag a hair from my head and be caught on the back side of that bark, and we can't see it. We take what we call footwear lifters. It's an adhesive material, and we adhere that to the areas of the branches we felt were possibly used by a shooter to brace against.
Finally, they get lucky.
We noticed that there were some hair and fiber, trace evidence there.
The fibers that were found on the tree were a blue-green acrylic fiber, most likely from a sweater.
All of that was sent to the FBI lab in Washington so that they could start their analysis as to what they might find.
Certainly DNA has become the gold standard for homicide investigations, a critical step sometimes in convicting someone of murder. But the key point is, if you find the DNA, that's great. But if you have no one to match it to, all you have is the DNA profile of an unknown assailant.
And while the cops hope their forensic evidence will lead them to their prey,
Hamilton Spectator.
Back in Canada, a mysterious package is delivered, but not to the police.
Thank you.
The package is delivered to the offices of the Hamilton Spectator newspaper, a 10-minute drive from Ancaster, Ontario, home of the second shooting. It appears to be a personal message from the sniper to the world. Running with the story is crime reporter Bill Dunphy.
It was a very disturbing package, complete with graphics, a collage and scribblings on it with some vague references and threats, including a taunt to the police telling them to solve the puzzle, piggies, is how I think he put it. The police became very interested in this and redoubled their efforts.
In all, 10 packages are sent.
These messages were increasingly violent and disturbing. I remember one featured a doctor lying in a pool of blood. There was another one with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The concern among the police, the public, and in our newsroom really was ratcheted very high.
But back in Amherst, New York, police are no closer to tracking Dr. Slepian's killer.
In terms of suspects for the shooting, there's certainly a list of radical pro-lifers in the U.S. that are on the radar of the FBI and police authorities. But in terms of the specific shooter, they don't have a name.
And with Remembrance Day less than 2 weeks away, the pressure is on.
We know we have other abortion doctors that live in town. There's certainly notifications that are made to make them aware. Heavy checks are placed on their homes and places of business. Certainly, now we're heightened as to something else might happening.
Pressure is only made worse by the media blitz the Slepian killing receives.
The story explodes. It's on CNN, it's international.
The murder of Dr. Slepian was a cold-blooded assassination. It was the type of murder for which the death penalty should apply.
It definitely drew media attention, both locally and nationally, given the fact that Dr. Slepian was a provider of women's reproductive health services. And, that certainly added the pressure to the investigators.
For police, it's time for good old-fashioned grunt work.
Investigatively, we're doing probably 100 things at the same time. We have detectives knocking on doors. We're stretching the perimeter out, for any suspicious cars over the last 6 months. We're putting out information to the news. If anybody saw anything, come in. We're establishing tip lines. We're meeting with the FBI and with the Canadian authorities. We're picking their brains, give us everything they know about the other shootings.
All that hard work pays off.
A person from the neighborhood of Dr. Slepian came into the command post and said that she had information.
She jogs every morning, and 9 days before the shooting, she went out to do her usual jog.
She saw a party who was in an older model car. She said, "Nah, that's not right."
And the reason it catches her attention is that she jogs in that neighborhood every morning. She knows who the paper boy is. She knows who the milkman is. She knows when people are walking their dogs, when they're leaving for work, when they're getting home from work. And this car seemed out of place.
Realizing he's being watched, the man gets out of his car and begins to jog, but barely.
He's not really jogging. She describes it as plodding.
He kind of limped. He was lumbering along like he was pretending, and it just didn't seem right to her.
This individual turned left toward Dr. Slepian's house, and this witness turned right and continued on her run.
After she came back from her jog, which was about an hour, and the car was still there, she thought it was very odd that he'd still be out there running, because he really didn't look like the type of person who would be in shape to do that.
The woman then does something truly remarkable.
She keeps a jogging journal, and she wrote what path she went and, what time she went out.
And she was a very, very smart lady. She wrote the plate number down. She knew it wasn't right, and she wrote it down. This is the kind of person you could die for on any investigation.
And when we ran that Vermont license plate, it was registered to James Charles Kopp.
Within minutes, police get their very first look at the man who may be their killer.
Kopp had 30-plus anti-abortion arrests throughout the United States.
We even were able to find arrests that he got when he was out of the country, when he was in Europe. We found arrests, I believe he was in jail in Italy for abortion protests. This seemed to be the only thing this man did.
The prime suspect in the murder case now has a name, James Charles Kopp. And Remembrance Day is just around the corner. Taunted by a killer who targets abortion doctors, police are not able to put together any leads until a witness connects them to a suspect who could be their murderer, James Charles Kopp.
We developed James Kopp as a suspect, but James Kopp is nowhere to be found.
But there was certainly a concern that if we went public with Mr. Kopp's identity, he would go underground.
Well, we don't want to push him further underground because we've kind of gotten the idea he's pretty good at hiding.
We try to make lists of everyone who knows him, everywhere he's been. We try to find out everything we can about Mr. Kopp.
And what they discover is that Kopp has been hanging out with a radical anti-abortion group called the Army of God.
The Army of God is a loose-knit terrorist group of anti-abortion individuals.
They will do whatever they need to do to stop abortions. They are the people that will glue the doors, who will set an arson fire in an abortion clinic, who will take it to the next level.
And one of the things in the Army of God manual is they give thanks to certain people. And the first person they give thanks to is someone referred to as Atomic Dog. And our investigation determined that Atomic Dog was James Kopp.
Mr. Kopp got the name Atomic Dog because in his quest to stop abortion and abortion clinics, he developed a lock that was able to lock two people together.
He would bolt himself to entrances and not allow people to walk through.
And I think they named that the Atomic Lock.
Everyone we talk to talks about Mr. Kopp as being a very gentle, religious man. He wouldn't hurt anyone, and so they're very surprised that he would be involved in anything like this.
Can't imagine the James Kopp I know doing anything criminal.
We don't know if he did the shooting. We don't know if he's just there. We still don't know. So we realize that he's a person that we need to talk to, if nothing else, to find out why he's there.
It's essential police find Kopp, especially since Remembrance Day is only a week away.
We did have a decision to make on whether to go public with Mr. Kopp as a person of interest in the investigation. Part of the public safety concern was that All the previous shootings in the United States and Canada had both happened around the same time of year. And given that's the time we were in, a decision was made to issue a material witness warrant for Mr. Kopp.
The FBI has their connections out of the country in case he's trying to get out. This picture was out nationally, locally, and internationally.
As the atomic dog manhunt goes global, Amherst police are even more determined to leave no local stone unturned. Detective Michael Melton and his team return to the Slepian crime scene.
The head of the Detective Bureau asked, was there a possibility that things were thrown into a bush and not found? Or was it a possibility of something being buried? And we said, yes, the possibility exists, but the probability doesn't. We brought in extra personnel. We laid out a grid pattern, 50-foot square blocks. As each block was cleared, we went to the next block. So it was shoulder to shoulder within that block, clearing the ground cover, looking for anything that might be there.
After hours of intense searching, they may have hit pay dirt.
One of the team members observed the tip of a black plastic bag sticking through the soil. And he said, this is kind of odd. What's this plastic garbage bag doing here?
If the bag was buried by the killer, why? What was he hiding?
In that hole was a plastic bag containing a hat, a shovel.
Hearing protection, a fanny pack, a cartridge case similar to the 7.62 by 39 round that was used to kill Dr. Slepian. I believe he firmly planned to come back once the heat had gone down to recover those items so that he could continue on to his next victim.
If the killer didn't want to be seen leaving with his equipment, wouldn't he have also stashed the gun?
No gun.
But the hat hole items could contain DNA. DNA that might connect to the shooting tree and ultimately to the sniper himself. Knowing lab results will take weeks, police ramp up their hunt for Kopp.
When we went to the address where his vehicle was registered, the people living there knew Mr. Kopp through the anti-abortion movement and had agreed to Mr. Kopp's request to use their address. And then what they do is periodically they bundle up his mail and they forwarded it on to another address in the state of Vermont. When FBI agents went to that second address, they're basically told the exact same story.
He seems to have no permanent residence.
Mr. Kopp had dozens of aliases.
He lived from post office box to post office box. We tracked down the family. They hadn't heard from him. They didn't know where he was.
But at a New Jersey address, they finally get a break. Stashed in a closet, they find a treasure trove of personal effects left behind by Atomic Dog.
Some of the items of note included a magazine that was subscribed to a Dennis Malvasi. Initially, we didn't know who Dennis Malvasi was.
Investigators rushed to find out more about Dennis Malvasi and his connection to James Kopp.
As we started to do a workup on Dennis, we realized that he had been convicted of bombing abortion clinics in the 1980s in the New York City area. And obviously, the fact that Dennis had used violence in the past concerned us and caused us to want to locate Dennis.
Or to find out if Dennis Malvasi is the killer himself. But try as they may, they can no more find Malvasi than James Kopp. It's as if both had disappeared into thin air.
And this was common with the Army of God. They didn't want to be found.
Then, on December 22nd, 1998, 2 months after Dr. Slepian's murder, a Port Authority officer on a routine check of a public parking lot stumbles onto an abandoned car with Vermont license plates. The parking lot in question, Newark International Airport. The man they're chasing could now be anywhere in the world. Soon after discovering that their prime suspect is a member of the violent anti-abortion group Army of God, a car with Vermont plates is discovered abandoned at an airport parking lot. Police quickly recognize the plate numbers. They belong to James Charles Kopp.
It had been there since November 4th of 1998, the same day as the material witness warrant was announced. We were sure this was his car. The windows were rolled down and the key was left in the ignition.
Mr. Kopp was hoping someone would steal the car, and therefore it would never be found by law enforcement.
Just as the FBI feared, Kopp's material witness warrant has pushed him further underground. But his plan to make his car disappear has failed.
In that car was a binocular case that fit the binoculars that we found in the hat hole.
The connection is incriminating, but not exactly proof positive. They still need that elusive DNA match. The question is, now that he could be anywhere in the world, will they ever find Atomic Dog?
We just didn't know where to look. We had to look everywhere. The FBI was involved, Interpol was involved, we've got Scotland Yard involved, just disappears. We couldn't find him.
But the case takes an unlikely turn in Hamilton, Ontario, when police finally get a look at the man who's been delivering threatening packages.
The messenger delivered a package to the front desk of the Sheraton Hotel here in Hamilton. Police were able to obtain a security videotape from the mall, which showed the man who delivered the package very clearly.
Local police identify the messenger as Ronald Wiley.
Ronald was a former cabbie who'd been living on disability for the last decade or so. He was a man with a violent past. He'd been arrested for armed robbery, for assault with a weapon, possession of weapons, threatening.
Wiley is cleared of murder charges when his DNA fails to match samples collected at the crime scenes. He serves a 2-year sentence on 3 counts of threatening death.
One of the other mysteries about the Hamilton sniper attack is that Dr. Hugh Short was not a visible guy at all. Clearly the sniper was getting inside information from people locally.
This raised the real possibility that Ron Wiley and James Kopp actually did know each other. I think the question still remains.
After a long winter, the Slepian crime scene is once again accessible. Police search a 3rd time, more determined than ever to find the murder weapon. But they are confronted by a puzzling new clue.
One investigator noticed some red spray paint markings on a tree.
Suddenly, police realize they may have finally decoded the shooter's treasure map. The marked trees point to a new search area.
Dig it up, but let's be easy. We don't know what's in here.
What was going through my head is, do we have the gun? Do we have something else? You don't know.
At long last, the one piece of evidence police are desperate to forensically tie to Kopp, the murder weapon.
It was a very exciting moment. Inside the hole was a Russian SKS assault rifle. It was a high-powered weapon. It was wrapped in rubber and buried about 18 inches underground.
We really became excited about it because it told us more about the person. The fact that it was buried meant that he was in there more than once. When we pulled the gun out of its encasement, it was unique, very unique. And I've seen dozens of SKSs and AK-47 style rifles. Never one like this. This one had been modified. The stock was extended. A curvature was cut out in the end of that so it fit better on his shoulder.
Its only purpose, to make the gun's accuracy more deadly.
Crude, yes. Effective, absolutely effective.
The gun is also fitted with a custom scope.
When you put a rifle to your shoulder, the scope is very close to your eye. You could leave the DNA there just based on your handling of that gun.
And the answer to why they could never find a spent cartridge anywhere, a shell catcher.
12-gauge wire, a homemade cloth bag. It caught the cartridge. The cartridge was in the bag.
Forensic examination of the weapon did determine that it was the same caliber round as the fatal round.
On the gun, they also find the same blue-green fiber that was found on the tree. But more importantly, they also find that same fiber in Kopp's car. There's no longer any doubt James Charles Kopp is their prime suspect.
In June 1999, Kopp was placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted fugitive list.
The fugitive aspect of the case definitely became a worldwide manhunt. That certainly raises the stakes for us.
Wherever Kopp may be, police figure he's forced to keep a low profile. That means he's most likely broke and in need of support from Army of God members back home.
Mr. Kopp wasn't going to be reaching out to many people. He wasn't going to put others in harm's way.
Several months after he's placed on the top 10 most wanted fugitive list, we get some information from an individual in New York who knows people that are in contact with Mr. Kopp. He provides information to us that generates some probable cause for electronic installations to listen to this couple in Brooklyn communicate with James Charles Kopp.
Their informant leads the FBI to wiretap Ted and Joyce Barnes, a couple leading a seemingly normal family life in Brooklyn. The name Ted Barnes uses at home, Dennis Malvasi. Investigators recognize the name from the magazine in Kopp's belongings, the man with prior convictions for bombing abortion clinics in New York City. Of even greater interest to the FBI is the identity of Joyce Barnes, Malvasi's wife. Her real name is Loretta Mara.
Loretta Mara was Kopp's closest confidant.
Loretta Mara protested with James Kopp, rescued with him, as they say, at the abortion clinics. And James Kopp had a deep affection for Loretta Mara, I believe, and friends of his believed that he loved her.
The wiretap confirms that Malvasi and Mara are hiding under the assumed names Ted and Joyce Barnes. The wiretap also confirms their primary topic of conversation, James Charles Kopp.
Our investigation determined that they were in contact with Kopp, providing him money when he needed and an emotional support as well.
The FBI monitors Mara and Malvasi's every move, but so far all they've overheard are cryptic conversations between Mara and Malvasi about Kopp. So the FBI gets a search warrant for Yahoo in the Silicon Valley and begins a systematic investigation of Mara's email account. And they strike gold. They discover Mara and Kopp are in regular email contact.
They both had the same password, and they could access the account and leave messages for each other, but they wouldn't actually send the messages, they would just leave them in draft form. It's what's referred to as a dead drop email account.
But the FBI is onto them.
The investigation had shown that Mara had attempted to send Mr. Kopp wire transfers of money.
Yet the FBI don't know where the transfers are being picked up until Kopp himself calls Loretta. And for the first time, the FBI hears the voice of their prime suspect.
When I heard a telephone conversation and Mr. Kopp is part of that, it just confirmed to me that all of our efforts were worth it.
And with one simple phone call, Atomic Dog finally makes a mistake.
No, I know I'm not supposed to use the phone. Listen. I need you to resend the password. I just need you to resend it. I need you to resend the password. Send it to the email.
A wiretap reveals that James Kopp is in contact with fellow Army of God members Loretta Mara and her husband Dennis Malvasi. And now the FBI trace a call from Kopp himself.
I need you to resend the money.
After months of covert emails, the FBI cannot believe their luck when Kopp calls Mara directly. A desperate act from a man who needs money wired ASAP to his secret location.
I think as time went by, Mara, Malvasi, and Kopp all fell into somewhat of a false sense of security. Just because they hadn't been caught, no one had knocked on their door, and they felt that as long as no one was at their front door, nobody was paying any attention to them. But little did they know we were.
I need you to resend it. Listen. I need you to send it to the post office in Da Nang.
During that call, Mr. Kopp actually identifies what town he's in. We relay that information to the French National Police through our legal attaché in Paris.
The clock counts down while Kopp gets his money. French police close in.
20 minutes after that, we were notified that Mr. Kopp was in custody.
After more than 2 years on the run, the cops finally slapped the leash on Atomic Dog.
You know, we were thrilled. Finally, all our hard work came to fruition.
I was excited for the FBI, for the New York State Police, for the Amherst Police, and most importantly for the Slepian family.
On the day James Charles Kopp is arrested in France, FBI agents arrest Mera and Malvesi in New York City. But the question is, will they be able to keep him behind bars?
I felt that it was the beginning of the end, but I knew we had a long way to go.
Knowing he may face the death penalty in the U.S., Kopp claims it wasn't his intention to murder Dr. Slepian.
My intention was to injure him in such a way that he couldn't abort. And I failed.
If you want to hurt him so he can't do it, why don't you just go up to him with a baseball bat? Break his arm. Why did you pick a high-powered military rifle to do it? You afraid to go walk up to his face? No, you gotta snipe him from a dark wooded area. You gotta hide in the woods in the night and shoot the guy in the back.
Because of French law, the notorious killer could wind up once again a free man. France refuses to extradite Kopp on the grounds that he will most likely be executed if sent back home. Like Canada, France's extradition laws prohibits them to do so.
The French government had to be assured from the United States federal government that the federal government would not seek the death penalty.
Confident they have enough forensic evidence to put Kopp behind bars for life, the U.S. agrees not to seek the death penalty. Atomic Dog is sent home. Changing his tune, Kopp soon admits to second-degree murder.
My own theory is that he admitted to the shooting to protect Loretta, to get her early release from prison for having been charged with harboring him as a fugitive.
But in spite of Kopp's admission, the evidence tells a different story. The shooting tree, the hat hole, and the gun conclusively tie Kopp to the first-degree murder of Dr. Slepian.
I have never experienced a case where I had such an avalanche of evidence. And we know that as a result of his convictions in state and federal court, the defendant James Kopp can never be released from prison. He's going to die in jail. In many ways, that's a fate worse than death.
It's only a matter of time before Kopp will be formally charged with the Canadian shootings.
I discovered that James Kopp had a couple of close friends in the Vancouver area, fellow protesters. There's no doubt in my mind that James Kopp is guilty of the shootings in Canada.
Mr. Kopp was forensically tied through DNA to one of the Canadian shootings in Ancaster, Ontario. The remaining shootings, he was certainly tied through border crossing activity of his vehicle.
He shattered a whole family. He took a husband away from a wife, and 4 boys spent the rest of their lives without a father. So when Mr. Kopp says, I did what I had to do to save lives, he ruined more lives that night than just killing Dr. Slepian.